What is up? Welcome to this week's episode of Vanflip, Lambgoat's Vanflip podcast. That's how we do it here on the Professional Podcast, hosted by me, your host, LURK. Today I am joined by someone who you may be very familiar with or not, but lately they just released a new album under a new band, not a new band, but new album with a new band that you may know this person from. We'll go there. Just released a new album. Shock NARCOTIC. They are signed to Phil from Pantera's record label. The new album is My Flesh is Afraid, but I Am Not. Jeff Tuttle, formerly of Dillinger, and a host of other acts and bands alike. Welcome to the show, brother. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
That's awesome. I've followed you for quite some time, obviously, because I was a Dillinger fan as well, and you were very predominant in the live show, like Ben was. And I don't necessarily want to start it off talking about Dillinger, but I just want to give you those flowers there, and we can get further, maybe down the road, into some Dillinger talk. But right now, my main question that I've always wondered is because you are on Housecore Records, which is Phil's kind of label that he founded. I don't know exactly how much he is involved in that record label, but as a band, as a person signed to that, maybe you could have some insight on that. And I would love to hear kind of like how that label works and, how he handles it and all
that. Like in which respect, I guess, or just the whole thing in general.
I mean, granted, he's the owner of the label, so I don't know how much on hand stuff that he may have on a day to day, especially now that he's back doing Down and Pantera and all that stuff. So,
I mean, he, it's very hands off, honestly. The bands that he kind of puts his stamp on, he trusts enough to just, go record this record, and I'm sure it's going to be great, So, I mean, there's never a point where he's like, no, this isn't good enough for the Housecore label. You go back into the studio and do better. He's extremely supportive. We recorded the drums for this record at his studio at his house.
Oh, cool.
And he actually, he played some bongos on one of our songs, believe it or not.
Does he get credit on the liner notes?
I believe he does.
Nice.
Yeah.
Not that liner notes are a thing anymore, but
Yeah, right. Some people are probably like, what does that mean?
Right. You used to get a little booklet and a CD and a tape, archaic stuff, but whatever.
Yeah, so no, he's, it's as painless as you would ever want putting a record out to be,
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously he doesn't have a hand on what you guys put out or what you create or anything like that and with his artists, but does he have a hand in selecting which bands make the roster? Does he find does he sign bands that he just likes, or is there an A&R branch with that kind of shows him some stuff?
So we got involved with Housecore because our singer Sean, his band, one of his other bands, is also on Housecore. So we kind of had the in already. But from what I can tell, it's about the people as much as it is about the music. If you get in with Phil, he's extremely supportive of underground music and stuff. Right. I mean, who's that?
I've got a little Chihuahua in here, but I've also got a new shelter dog we've adopted, so I'm trying to keep them somewhat separated, but he snuck in, and now, someone came home, so he's excited. But apologies, listeners and Jeff.
I don't know any other musicians or, anybody of his stature that really makes a point of bringing bands that, for the most part, people, we just did a few shows with Pantera and stuff.
Right.
I'm guessing that a majority of the people had no idea who we were.
Yeah.
Um, you know, when, they had a Monomarth on the run as well, but, they could just have easily brought along, another band that maybe would have brought some more butts into the seats.
Yeah. I think
But
Pantera draws enough butts in the seats that they can just be fluid with it.
yeah, they do. But I mean, you know what I mean?
Right. And he does do
He,
that. I mean, all his tours, at least in all Pantera's tours in the last 2 years, excluding like Lamb of God or someone else that may have joined them, have been bands on his label or smaller bands, and it's been cool to
yeah,
see.
well, yeah, because the Pantera Lamb of God run that they did, our singer Sean, his band Childbite
Yeah.
opened on that tour. So yeah, I mean, that's that's kind of unheard of, that he's that invested in, just like, you know what, you're good, I like your band, you're good dudes, let's go out there and melt some faces.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even beyond that, a lot of times touring with a band like that, it can be very, very separated, like, we're the headliner, you're the opening band,
No
like, go
mingling.
off your little opening band area,
Yeah.
and see you never. It was
No, it happens too. I mean, I hear about it all the time. So
yeah, I mean, he's out there watching the bands, he's out there just enjoying it, doing his thing. So he's in it for the long haul, man, and I just think that's incredibly awesome. Especially, he's been doing it for how long now, and to still be that excited about music and new music and stuff like that. So
yeah.
yeah,
The roster's quite interesting because it's a lot of like, I mean, like King Parrot, yourself. There's a handful of other bands that are kind of in this grind realm, and it's interesting to see because most people on the surface only know Phil from like Pantera or Down or like some kind of New Orleans kind of vibe, musical vibe, and it's kind of interesting to see like more aggressive, like super aggressive music compared to what they were playing. Even though, I mean, like, again, Pantera is aggressive music and like, who knows, Birth Breakdowns maybe, I don't know, but it's just interesting to see like how the label is compared to what he himself puts out.
yeah, yeah. He's an eclectic guy. I don't know if you've heard that N minor project that he put out, which was very low key, and
No.
yeah, you check that one out, because I think that one surprised a lot of people. It's unlike anything else that he's ever worked on. It's very like somber, and he's really utilizing his vocal talents as a singer, not just a yeller or a screamer. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He's got a lot of different influences, and he's not afraid to put them out there.
Yeah. I mean, I've never heard, I mean, I've been in the world for a long time and I've only heard one bad thing about the guy, and he had like one little mishap over his, that I can recall, one mishap over his career there. But outside of that, he seems like a guy like you're saying. Like I met him in person in 2018. That's the only time I've ever done that. I think Super Joint Ritual might have played Louder Than Life or something like that, like one of his first comeback shows or whatever. And he was a cool dude then. And like, again, I've never heard any, especially in the band world, as far as like people who know him, there's never a negative thing to be said. But it's just, unfortunate that some things just happen and follow you forever or whatever, but it is what it is. I want to get into Shock Narcotic though, because got into the housecore. That was a good, insightful chat there. I got a lot out of that. But Shock Narcotic. So obviously you kind of like leave Dillinger, you're doing a couple other things, and then like because. Do I even call it like a grindcore super group? Because at some point you guys had like a little bit of everybody and a little bit of everything. in the group. So how did it all come together and form? Like, what was the general idea for kicking that off?
So Sean and I have been friends for a very long time, and we had been talking about doing some type of musical project, a couple different times, and nothing ever ended up coming of that. And then when he came up, he was the one that came up with the idea. He's like, you know how we've always been wanting to do a band together. He's like, well, you know, he knew Don. I didn't meet Don until like our first practice, and then he knew our first drummer, Zach Gibson,
Mm-hmm.
uh, who had played with the Black Dahlia Murder in like 1,000 other bands.
Yeah, like Abigail
So
Williams and
he
some other shit.
with that,
Abigail Williams and some other shit.
yes, yes. So Sean was really kind of the ringleader, and he was just like, I feel like the four of us would get along. And at this point in our lives, at our age, I'm not trying to get in a room with a bunch of people that I can't stand to be around,
You don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I paid those dues enough. Um, so yeah, it was, he was like, I think we would get along. I think we could write some really cool music, and Shock Narcotic is kind of what came out of that.
Awesome. What was the idea for like musically? Like, how did you guys want to approach it? Because like, is it something that you guys, like you and Sean talked about? Like, we should do some kind of like grindy, kind of heavy thing?
Yeah. Everybody kind of threw some ideas into the hat, and um, the fast, aggressive grind was definitely the jumping point. And for the first record, most of the songs barely crack a minute.
Yeah.
And I think it was 14 songs in 19 minutes, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
And honestly, so I don't know if I've ever said this to anybody else, but Sean and Don or Zach, but my original idea for the first Shock Narcotic record is back when Instagram videos were limited to a minute.
Yeah.
Back in those old days, I wanted to have all the songs be under 1 minute, and I wanted to release the whole album as Instagram videos.
That would have been pretty cool.
Yeah, so about 3/4 of the way through the writing process is when they rolled out the Instagram Reels,
man, yeah.
and it just kind of shit on that entire idea. So after that, kind of became a moot point. We re-examined some of the songs that would, maybe benefit from
Making it longer.
yeah.
Drawing it out.
So instead of 14 songs, 14 minutes, we ended up with 19 minutes. But, so it still moves along pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So for the second record, though, which ended up taking about 6 years to come to fruition.
Yeah, I was going to get into that, but go ahead.
The intention was to take more time with the writing process. The first record was, conceptualized and actualized in a very short period of time. There was even a lot of times I would just press record and just play a riff, and that would end up being the take,
Yeah.
And or that would end up being like the main riff of a song, and I would kind of just go from there. I really wanted it to be super stream of consciousness type of playing, rather than like over intellectualizing things, just like, let's just see what happens when I have just kind of no idea what I want to do, which was really fun. I never really approached songwriting that way. And, somebody like me and Sean, really, I don't really ever like to do the same thing twice. So, approaching the second record, with more of like a traditional songwriting, viewpoint, and letting the riffs breathe a little bit more, um, which ended up being letting the songwriting process breathe a little too much.
Taking a little long.
But started writing this record during lockdown. When there was really, for a lot of people, there wasn't much else to do. Where it was like, well, I can just mess with these songs all day and all night for weeks and months on end. And I ended up recording all the guitars and then scrapping them and re-recording them, and doing that a few times, and just adding layers and layers and stuff, and buying pedals and buying new gear. And then you buy a new pedal and like, well, now I want that on all the tracks, so now I have to re-record all this. And at a certain point you just have, we just had to say, let's stop.
Yeah, it's hard for artists or bands to be like, the song is finished, because technically it's never really finished. You know what I mean?
No, that's what I say too. I that's what I said. It's not a matter of if it's finished. It's a matter of, I'm just going to force myself to stop working on it and just let it be what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to.
To you, it's not. Yeah, to you and to you guys, it's not. But
right.
like to the audience, it's like, oh, this is perfect. You know what I mean? Because they don't know. They don't know that what went into.
Exactly. And I remember hearing Tom Petty talking, and I don't remember which album he was referring to, but he said in his entire career, only one time has a record come out the way that he heard it in his head. And I was like, you know what? That I can relate to that, and I haven't even put out nearly as much music as that man has. Right. And that just, it's a testament to how difficult it can be to translate what you're thinking, what you're conceptualizing for a song, and putting that down and cementing it, because the choices can be endless, and the slightest move of a microphone on a speaker cabinet can change everything, and it's it can be frustrating. And I think learning to just kind of roll with what you've got and not kind of get hung up can be an art in itself.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the other side of that too is, one thing that I learned, especially with this was the first real project where the songwriting came in more of a studio context, rather than getting in a room and jamming out the songs. I was writing and recording the songs at the same time, and then passing them off to the other guys. But because I learned, recording demos and then re-recording those demos, sometimes you're like, well, now it doesn't sound like the demo, and I really like the way the demo sounds. So it's just like, well, let's just let the demo be the actual record and just skip that whole part of it.
Yeah, I mean, some of that stuff, like you were saying, is being nitpicky and like changing the microphone this way, or just tuning a little differently, or setting a setting on some other kind of piece of equipment in a different way. Like that part of the process to me was always super daunting. Like when I was in a band many years ago, I didn't even know most about that kind of stuff. And even then, the recording and the after process was so daunting. Like I didn't want any part of it. And then I started like producing music on my own, like about 10 years ago, but like electronic music or like beats or whatever you want to fucking call them. And then like, Jesus Christ, the effects and the mastering side and everything else that you can do to tweak whatever sounds or whatever, thing that you've created is beyond daunting. And then again, like, I'm not an audio engineer, so I don't necessarily know if this even sounds good or sounds right. You know what I mean? So like, I'm just out here in like the netherworld going like, I guess this is okay, you know, but
Yeah. Well, I think the funny, along those lines, I think it's hilarious where, you're in the studio and you've got like these multi-million dollar like consoles and like the nicest speakers that exist in the universe, and the ultimate test is still like, I'm gonna go listen to this in my car.
yeah. Car
It's
test.
like if
Yep.
it doesn't pass the car test, it's not going to pass anything.
And that kind of
But
sucks too, because like, but again, a lot of people do listen to music in their car, and then a lot of things are like in streaming mastered or catered to like earbuds. So like, it's very strange. And like when you're listening to anything on Spotify, I'm curious as to if Spotify or Apple or any kind of digital services like up their game a little bit. But like, it would be interesting to see if, or to know if they like, oh, this person's listening to it on this type of device, like a car, or so maybe there's like a different EQ or mastering thing that they could maybe like push your way rather than, oh, he's got plugged in earbuds or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, and then, or he's on a real system. But like, it's crazy because like I've gotten way back into CDs because they sound so much better in my car than, Spotify or any kind of streaming thing. So it's been crazy.
I still haven't gone the streaming service route.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't. Um, well, I have like a lot of music that I had transferred from CD to like digital files and stuff. But
So you've got like 100 gig iPod from like 1999 or something.
Yeah. Yep.
And for those who are curious, children, iPods were your phone before they had a phone in them, and they were just for music.
I have a super old. I don't remember if it was. I don't even know if it was called. Was it the iPod Shuffle?
They did have a shuffle, and that was one that you couldn't really like select what song you were going to listen to.
No, it's a white little stick. It looks like a USB stick. There's no display on it, so you have no idea like what is even on it.
Next or play or stop. There was another one too that was a mini shuffle that you could clip to like.
Yes, yeah.
Is that the one?
No, I had the stick one.
Okay.
Where it was just like you press play and you're like, I don't know. Maybe the next song is a good song. I don't know. I have no idea what's even on here anymore.
You better hope all your songs on there are good.
Yeah, never. I don't know. I don't know why. I think, and I was reading an article today, and it was a statement that Christopher Nolan had made, and he was urging people to start buying physical media again.
They are.
Yeah, just because, the idea of ownership, owning a movie or owning a record, like that's almost, for a lot of people, well, I would even imagine for a lot of people that's not even a consideration, because if you were born into a culture that just streams entertainment, like, why would you even think about buying a movie, but
yeah, and it's also a little harder, especially if you're not used to doing something like that. Like, I've got to switch the CD, the DVD, the record, the cassette out every time that I want to listen to something else.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. But it does it makes it more intimate. You're more intimate with that art, that piece of physical media. And like, I'll be honest with you, I do a side thing, which I've probably talked too much about this on the podcast just in general, but it's like a new metal DJ night. Like, how the emo nights were a big thing for the last 10 years. I do a new metal one. And in doing so, I source these like new metal CDs, and and usually it's like 18 to 20-year-old kids that are really coming to these events. They're younger kids that weren't even around when any of this music was coming out. But the rate at which they'll buy CDs and not have a CD player or anything like that is pretty crazy. They just want to have it. So that's why I say the they're buying it. You know what I mean? People are buying it, especially the newer kids, because I think they went so long without, having something in their hands
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
tangible
And
with
I
it.
think it's similar to, you know, um, I'm 45, so
Yeah, I'm
um,
around there.
yeah. Uh, I can remember when I first started buying like records, like,
Do you remember
which
your
at,
first ones?
what's that?
Do you remember what your first records were?
Um, yeah, I mean, like classic rock, like Led Zeppelin and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
like that. And like to my mom and dad, like the fact that I was buying what they've considered like this dead form of media, like they couldn't fathom it. Like, cause no, like a lot of people got rid of their record players,
right.
and thankfully, um, my mom and dad, they still had their records. My dad would still regularly put on records, in the house, which, that's how I got into music in the first place.
Right. I came a Led Zeppelin route too, dude. Trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but the fact that like they just couldn't believe that records were like coming back into style and that more and more bands were choosing to press vinyl
Hmm.
and CDs, and
Yeah.
we all know how that turned out. Um, but so when I heard people saying like, yeah, CD sales are up like 500% or something like
It
that,
is
I
crazy.
think
Yeah.
I had a similar reaction where I'm like, but why?
Yeah. Because you're not
Why?
seeing CD players be manufactured. Like you don't go to a store like Best Buy. Or, I mean, it's hard to go into a store and find what you're looking for anyway in general these days because
Yeah.
everything's online. But like, you're not going to Walmart, Target, or anything and being like a CD player, but they'll have like vinyl players that you can, like really bad vinyl players that you can buy,
Yeah.
but there's no CD player. There used to be CD players in like everything, clocks, fucking everything, dude.
Okay, so wait, I want to circle back. Um, what new metal? What are we talking?
Oh
What
boy.
bands?
Oh boy.
And is this and I'm just asking,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this a genuine interest or is there a sense of irony going on here?
Well, if you want a little history of Lurk here, I grew up listening to Led Zeppelin, whatever my parents were listening to, right? So, and I'm going to make this quick because this is like 200 episodes in. People are fucking already over this. But
I'm
I
not
know, I know, I know. I'll give you kind of elongated but
sure.
short version because I've streamlined it, right? So I grew up listening to whatever my parents listened to, which my dad was like 70s rocker guy, right? So that's what I got into. Although his music was old man music, then, and I'm older than my dad was then. And my dad was like 30, when I was cognitive and listening to what he was listening to. But then that kind of made me get into like rock, like even modern rock at the time. And then I started to venture out on my own when alternative started to really get on the radio. Like we had a radio station, alternative radio station, and like bands like 311 and Marilyn Manson. And I'm from Jacksonville, so Limp Bizkit started here. So we were we were some of the first people to like know about that band. And long story short, Limp Bizkit became like my favorite thing of all time for a number of years at that time in my life, because again, they were hometown people. They've become MTV huge, TRL huge, and I'm watching this grow from like a local bar scene band to like fucking what looked like the biggest band in the world in the 2000s, in early 2000s. So like I was fully a new metal kid and like would go to Ozfest and all this other shit before they started bringing like metalcore acts and hardcore acts and all this other stuff. I found like other bands like Slipknot in high school, and then the big catalyst, I guess, was Slipknot and Glassjaw, because then I started finding out more about Roadrunner, and then
Mhm.
Glassjaw led me to Hatebreed, and then of course now you know what the fucking vein is. I found another smaller, weirder niche of music that was more aggressive, more chaotic, and I just was drawn to it. And then unfortunately, when you start going to these shows and you start being involved in the hardcore scene in the early 2000s, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, Papa Roach, Slipknot, those are bands you're not supposed to like, and you're not wearing those shirts in at the shows or nothing like that. So I kind of had to like hide my new metal fandom for a little bit, right? So that's where it all began. Like I am a genuine fan of a lot of like new metal. The things that I play when I do the new metal night, unfortunately, are more of the well-known bands. So you're not like going to come out and listen to like bands that you may know about, but that don't have a giant following. So like there are bands like even Mudvayne. Not a lot of the people know. Granted, there are people that are older that definitely know all the songs, but again, there's a lot of younger people coming, and you can drastically tell the excitement of a song depending on what song it is. So like System of a Down, Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, Slipknot, yeah, those are the big ones, right? Like, and Korn, that's a big one too. So those bands, and that's basically what it is. Like mostly those songs with like one or two every now and then. That's like a band like Flaw may have like one song, or Spine Shank or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I for one, that's awesome. And two, um, I am like deeply invested in like the new metal type of revival.
Hell
I
yeah!
think there's
Are you a new metal? Are you also a new metal alumni?
yeah, I mean, I grew up before I knew what Limp Bizkit was going to turn into. Like, I was a fan. They famously came to the Detroit area and they performed live on the rooftop of a record store, like a
Yeah.
local record store, and it turned the entire city into chaos,
Yeah.
And like I'm like 20 years old and I'm like, this is crazy, like who does this? Like what band does this? And I was into it. I saw them, I can't remember. I know I saw them at like one of the early Warp tours, they were on like one of the tiny
97,
side
98.
stages.
Yeah.
Um, and Wes Borland was doing his whole Wes Borland thing, and I'm like, what is this? Like, this guy's a rapper, and then this dude is dressed up like a zombie for some reason. He's the only guy in the band that's like dressed weird.
Yeah, the other guy bassist just staring off into fucking
Yeah.
space, all mean looking.
So yeah, man, I was a fan. System of a Down, I Slipknot. The thing that I could never really wrap my head around or get over was just, I don't know, man, and I don't even know if I can put my finger on it, but I think to me it's like the lyrical content and the fandom kind of ruined it for me.
I could see that. Of just Limp Bizkit or new metal in general.
Just new metal in general.
Yeah, it's a little cringe.
A bit, yeah. But which is why I think I really am enjoying like a lot of these younger bands that are taking like the new metal style,
yeah,
getting rid of all that bullshit and just making it seems like it's more about the music than it is about like
right
metal culture.
It's the vibe,
like,
the vibe of the song.
Yeah, it the new metal bands, maybe some of the more like radio, I don't even want to say radio friendly, but, just the way that they approach, like, just talking about women and stuff.
Yeah. The content.
Really, yeah. I mean, it's very misogynistic. And I think that was amplified by the fandom, and then we all know how Woodstock turned out, which was kind of putting that whole genre and that whole era under a microscope and just seeing like, this is what you're choosing to do with your life, you know?
I do think Bizkit got a bad rap for the fucking Woodstock thing.
I think it did, because it was the Chili Peppers that pushed it over the edge.
But hey, it's easy to blame Fred and the boys because they were like the biggest. And again, like you're saying, a lot of that's cringe fucking shit, and the energy's a little different. And like they didn't, Fred didn't care in his performance, but again, like it was a totally different night. And then on top of that, you had, I think, Korn played after Limp Bizkit, which was a way crazier crowd. So
yeah, but yeah, so there's a lot of like these younger bands that I'm way into because it's more, they're taking the sound, they're taking the riffs, and they're getting rid of all that bullshit. And it seems more genuine, and it seems more about the music than it does about like a culture
Yeah,
of bros. You know what I mean?
I get it. And there's also like there's I think there's more females, more women
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're
into
just
it as
not.
well.
They're not so easy to accept people that like have that kind of viewpoint. You know
Right.
that like where,
Well, and
you know,
those people also grew up without that viewpoint.
for
The
sure.
younger
So
kids don't
they,
have that.
yeah,
So
yeah. But bands like Throne from
hmm
Sweden, huge into them. Loathe, I really like
yeah.
Loathe.
Are you familiar with Orthodox from Tennessee?
I'm not.
They are they're a new metal adjacent kind of. I mean, when I hear a band, I'm like, that's some new. I've got the ear for it, and I don't. And 5 years ago, when I would start like talking to bands and be like, you got a kind of a new metal sound, it still wasn't cool to even mention that
Yeah,
they were adjacent to that. But yeah, like Orthodox is one of them. There are a handful. Silly Goose from Atlanta.
yeah, yeah.
They are like like a reincarnated version of Reveille to me, and I used to like really think Reveille was a fun, like fun new metal band. But they are Silly Goose, obviously, clearly is a fun new metal band, and you can tell.
I think it was when the first Shock Narcotic record came out. I think I had made a statement to somebody. I was like, "Hear me out. In theory, new metal is good," and
Yeah,
they just like laughed their ass off. And I'm like, "For real though, it is. Like it's breakdowns. It's it's got everything, but there's just like that part of it that I just can't get over. So I don't know.
we'll get there though. Well, second revival, second wave, you're going to get fully involved, and then who knows? You might have to do a side project, but
Oh, it's already coming.
oh
I'm not even
shit.
not even kidding.
Nice. Well, let us know. I've been pumping new metal through the Lambgoat news section for the last 3 years since taking over, so they're all well aware what's going down. Oh boy, I like it. They always say, "Not new metal, not hardcore." Why is this on here? That's the new running joke. Outside of Goo, it's that one. But enough about new metal before we lose everybody. Although we probably already have in general. I want to talk a little bit about your time in Dillinger because, again, that's kind of how I was introduced to you in general. And, that band was, I mean, the band throughout their entire career or entire, whatever is a band that's always stood out to me. And, again, like I said in the beginning, you were one of the more animated people up front. I mean, you guys all were. It was like the
Yeah.
craziest fucking shit of all time. But, like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if you want to discuss that, but how did you get involved with like Dillinger and how has that like shaped how you are as a musician going forward? Because and you can correct me if I'm wrong because my research usually is, but you were in the band for a number of years, but kind of only like helped write Operation Paralysis, or how did that work with you being in the band?
Um, I had no part in any songwriting. My biggest contribution was the final track on Option Paralysis. I wrote the lyrics and all of the vocal harmonies and melodies.
Okay.
So that was really my main contribution. Yeah, I mean, becoming a part of that band, I think there's very few bands that could elevate to the status that they did as, in terms of being like this band, their energy is crazy. Their live shows are chaotic and borderline dangerous.
Yeah.
Um, you know, again, I was like 19, 20 years old and I'm hearing these stories of like what their live shows are like. I go to see them. There's a venue in Detroit called The Shelter, and it's called The Shelter because it's the basement of a larger venue called St. Andrews. So ceiling's pretty low, and they're down there. Um, blowing fire,
Yeah.
and the fire is just rising and rolling across the ceiling.
Yeah, it looks like
And
a
I'm
scene
like,
from Backdraft.
this is fucking crazy. Like they just have no regard. Like,
Yeah.
what would happen if, and then this is obviously before the Great White incident.
Yeah. I was curious. I was like, I'm sure they probably didn't even know that they were going to blow fire.
Probably
The
not.
venue.
My first tour, though, actually, that I did with Dillinger, there was a fire chief that they pissed off at some point. He physically called like every venue that we were playing on the tour and said, "These guys are going to blow fire. And you need to know that, and you need to like not let it happen." So a majority of those shows, the fire chief of that town
Showed up
in there with his, here you guys aren't going to be blowing fire tonight, are you? Which I thought was,
it's kind of our main way we kick off the show, but
yeah.
sure.
So yeah, getting off topic a little bit, but so hearing all, the legend of Dillinger, I think came about so quickly, more so than I think any other band from that time or really any other time. And a friend of mine was guitar teching for them, a friend of mine from Detroit. And around the time that Brian was leaving the group, he, said to Ben and the other guys, they were like, "Hey, I know this guy from Detroit that I feel like would, he fits the energy, he fits the vibe." So they ended up bringing one of my old bands out on the road. And that was kind of my audition, my trial by fire. So that's how all of that happened.
Did you, and again, I know you weren't necessarily around when like, the Patton years really happened, but I know he kind of like popped in and out, the last fucking however long, 20 years or whatever. Did you ever kind of like, were you ever lucky enough to be graced by one of those pop-ins or anything like that?
I was in San Francisco. He came out, and I can't remember if we did one or two songs with him from the Irony is a Dead Scene EP. But yeah, I mean, talk about some like real bucket list shit right there.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Faith No More was my gateway into like heavy music. It was the first band that I kind of latched onto that I discovered more or less on my own. It wasn't like something that I just like heard in the house that my parents were listening to or something.
Do you remember
like
what
that.
it was? Like what version or what era?
Oh, it was The Real Thing. Epic.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that song.
No wonder you're a new metal fan.
Yeah, seriously. I think that song in particular changed things for a lot of people, because it was something that was so different than what was going on at the time. That was the tail end of the hair metal era. Grunge was still not quite happening yet. It was going on, but not everybody kind of knew the extent that it was going to have influence. So yeah, I was just like, these dudes are super weird. And again, like maybe not to the extent of like a Limp Bizkit, but you got Mike Patton wearing wait, was that I remember which video he's wearing the Mr. Bungle shirt that says there's a tractor on my balls. It's like I'm 9 years old and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And then you've got Jim Martin on guitar. He's got this giant hair and these like huge glasses. I'm like, talk about a mismatched looking group of people.
He's
Like,
always in bands like that. Bungle and Faith are kind of just like,
yeah,
what are these ragtag group of hired
yeah,
musicians, that are great?
yeah, so, and I was just completely drawn to it. And that, I mean, and from that moment on, it was all done for me.
Yeah.
I decided what I wanted to do with my life.
Unfortunately, I think they were a little before their time, you know?
Yeah,
I forget, like,
yeah,
I really do forget when they actually came out. And I'm like, because growing up, I would hear like Epic and, like the cover Easy and all that other shit. Like, you would hear that around, but it had been out for a while. And you just forget, like, again, they're like a decade before new metal, and they would have fit right in, if not been like one of the front runners, so.
yeah. And honestly, too, the singer before Mike Patton, even more so, doesn't get the credit that he deserves.
Yeah, true.
I'm a big Chuck Mosley fan. I loved what he did. Uh, could barely sing a note, but it didn't matter. It was the feeling, it was the words, it was what he was saying, it was his delivery. There was just something about it that was so unique. And I rank Introduce Yourself, I rank that one up there, I think, equally probably with Real Thing or Angel Dust.
Okay.
Those three records to me, man, are so special, so important.
To tie this whole thing back, and I got one more thing that I want to ask you, because I know I want to cut you short before you have to actually go to your next thing, to give you a bathroom break or something like that. I'm thoughtful like that. I do want to point out, though, I was mentioning that I was selling CDs during these new metal nights, right? A young lady came up, just bought Angel Dust just because of the cover, and I said, it's definitely worth you checking out. She bought it just sight unseen without even knowing
That's
what it
awesome.
was. I still have the real thing. It's in the the discog or the disco or whatever. I'm trying to move some stuff, but she got that one just based off the cover with the bird and the blue and everything like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so the kids are all right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
The last
that
thing,
gives me hope. That
yeah,
gives me hope.
yeah, yeah. It should. Doing this whole night has definitely given me a lot of hope, just because I get to see like just the youthful revival. But anyway, I have to ask, and you don't necessarily have to, give me give me your input on it, but I'd be interested to find out. As a person who's been in the band, Dillinger and whatnot, how do you feel about like just the trajectory of what happened after you've left, and like what has currently kind of been going on the last 2 years? Whereas, Greg joins the band, leaves the band's defunct, and then now that's kind of back doing the calculating 25-year run with Dimitri and stuff. I was just curious as to like, do you wish you were involved kind of thing, or do you have an opinion or
Well,
care?
it really wouldn't make sense for me to be
Right.
involved because I wasn't there, and does it surprise me? Not at all. Just because, how many times has Kiss played their
Right. Right.
final shows, Um,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty wild that, they're continuing on. It's like when they had announced those first reunion shows, and then it was another one, and then it was another one, and now they're going to
All
Australia,
over the world. Yeah. It's a whole
yeah.
thing.
And I'm like, good for them,
I get it,
uh,
because they want everyone to, like, you want everyone to buy leg one tickets. You know what I mean? Or like that festival ticket. And then it's like, oh, but then we're going to do like a leg two is going to be a much bigger and broader tour. And then we're going to Europe. And I mean, I'm not talking, I
yeah,
don't want to downplay what they're doing.
no,
I like it, but
yeah,
I get what you're saying. The kiss analogy.
and I'm like, at what point are you just a band again?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They have to write a song, I think.
I guess when you start writing new material, so yeah, I'm not sure if that's ever going to happen, but I think it's awesome that they're out there crushing it still. I've seen Liam and Ben and Billy, in all like independently
Mm-hmm.
um, in various different areas. Liam had come through with In Flames.
Nice. Yeah.
which is crazy that he's playing in Flames now.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it was, it's great to see him. I ran into Ben. He was at Full Terror Assault. This was years ago. He was there with Suicidal, and I
Mhm.
was there with Shock Narcotics. So we got a chance to catch up then. You know, going through the shit with that band. I mean, it was some wild times.
I can
Some
imagine.
times that I will never forget. Got to see things that I never thought I would ever be able to see. Got to do things musically that it's the stuff that you dream of when you first pick up a guitar.
Hmm.
Uh, so I will forever be thankful that I got that opportunity.
Yeah, they're one of those anomalies where like you wouldn't think that band like that would be as big as they are, but yet here we are, and they're
Hmm.
still together, and they're doing 25-year anniversary runs and all this other shit. I
Yeah.
can't wait for the Mike Patton run. That EP is like one of my favorite EPs. The All Dogs Go to Heaven. That might be one of my favorite Dillinger songs. So, or all good dogs do bad things. There you go.
When good dogs do bad things.
Something like that. You know how it is.
I wasn't gonna correct you.
I knew
I'm
when I
like,
said it, Jeff, it came out wrong. I knew when I said it. But all right, and I want to give Liam his props. He's also a crazy motherfucker on the bass. He always blew me away when I would watch you guys play.
he's got that power stance that is just like,
Yeah, he looks like he looks like a bassist, but you wouldn't think he'd be playing like that kind of music. And
yeah,
he has a weird graceful way of maneuvering about the stage, which is quite
yeah.
entertaining.
And I'm like, this dude could knock over mountains at this point, with that power stance.
Yeah, it's true. Jeff, I appreciate you, brother. And if you made it this far, you can check out My Flesh is Afraid, But I Am Not, the newest record by Shock Narcotic on Housecore. You can purchase it anywhere on their socials and housecorerecords.com. He doesn't want you to stream it because he doesn't even stream it. So don't even worry about it. You know what I mean?
Own it.
There's a liner note booklet in there. Get it. Touch it.
You gotta own things.
Yeah, dude.
See?
I got some. I got my vinyl collection here. My 800 CDs are over here on the wall. Big nerd stuff, But
Yeah.
Jeff, appreciate it. Go have fun for the next 5 minutes before you got to get back at it.
Excellent, man. I appreciate it.
Take it easy, dog.
All right, you too.